Hi, Jude. Welcome to the Women Waken podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Whitney. I really appreciate your work. I think you're bringing such amazing, important messages and people forward, and I really am honored to be on your show. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for being on. I admire your work as well, and I appreciate it. I appreciate you stepping forward with some of the more esoteric cosmic concepts. I know for you, it just comes like breathing. I imagine you probably wouldn't do anything else, right? But it does take a certain amount of courage, which to state you are an astrologist, you're a metaphysician, and a master soul coach. So would you mind sharing? Of course, we want to hear about your work, but because this is, these are generally areas that come to us in terms of we feel a calling towards it. It's whether you call it channeled or inspired. To me, this is the work of bringing in the new experience, new life, new earth on this planet. So how
Yeah,
did you come into this work, and what does your work look like?
yeah, I really appreciate your compliment. Thank you, because it is like breathing for me, and it's been actually a process to be able to break it down for people. And I've had a lot of communications with my guides lately of with that. So it's been interesting to understand that about myself, and that is, I think, helpful to let people know, to share the journey of how it goes. For me, I was studying metaphysics at 8 years old. I was in the library checking out all the metaphysical books, constantly in that section of the library, reading every book. Some of them I went back years later. I'm the only one that ever checked them out. There's like the stamp with my name next to it. And I just like lived those books. And I studied psychology as well. So I'm basically like a street psychologist. And so it was just what I was wildly interested in, drawn to. And also, one of the compelling things for me from very early on was like I was driven to find a way to heal. I knew that if I could heal, then I could create anything I wanted in life. And I was just driven to that end. And because of that, that is how I've cultivated the healing effective techniques that work. And I think sometimes people are confused by really supportive, awesome techniques to have in your spiritual gig bag, and then the healing techniques that actually heal trauma, heal the wound, change the life, change our life, allow us to finally be empowered and to finally not feel, not good enough inside, not feel insecure or, lacking in confidence. And it's really been this natural evolution, for a lot of times within it. I didn't know what the hell I was doing or where I was going. And I kind of kept trying to do the patriarchal world quite a bit, because I thought like, oh, okay, if I'm going to make my dreams come true, I guess I have to toe the line or walk this world. And then finally, I was able to see I didn't have to. Thankfully, with online business, basically, with the democratization of information and consciousness through the internet. I mean, thankfully, you don't have to fit into boxes anymore to make a living, and also to really make a big impact in the world.
Yeah, absolutely, which is so exciting. It's one of the beautiful benefits of the advancements in technology, is that we can really, everyone can kind of create their own business. And if they have something to offer, they can find their niche and they can find their people, their community.
Yeah, absolutely. I teach women a concept that I call like your greatness. And it's about understanding business in a really different way and understanding money, because women like to push money away. Oh, no, it's not spiritual. Or, oh, no, I'm good. I don't need any more money. I don't need to make $1 million. I don't know what that is with women, like trying to push it away, but there's a lot of subconscious programming in there. But what I teach is like, you're always pushing the edge of your greatness in business. Business is just this avenue. It's just an avenue. The avenue could be children and family. The avenue could be, being a scientist and that work, whatever it is. But in business, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, then do it all in and push the edge of your greatness constantly, which means to make $1 million, to scale as a woman, you have to bring value to the world. And so just realize that money is indicative of the value you're bringing So like you almost have a responsibility to bring your feminine genius to the world and stop pushing money away. And also to do it, you have to develop yourself because it brings up all your shit. It brings
Yes.
up all your inner stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up. I've had quite a few guests because there are more and more women money coaches who are trying to offer this idea to women that says, we need to change our ideas and our views and our beliefs about money and wealth and abundance, right?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because there is a need for women to be able to be okay with huge amounts of success, because that means that they will have more of a presence and a more greater reach, which is imperative at this time. If we're, as we make this transition, this shift into greater balance and incorporating more feminine concepts, that doesn't happen if we keep ourselves out of, you know, the mainstream of life. That we want these to be incorporated just as much as extremely masculine concepts have become the lifeblood on our planet. If we don't allow ourselves to be seen and heard in a big way, or in many, many different ways, right? We don't all have to be multi-billionaires, but we can be, you know, we don't need to be afraid of that, right? We don't need to be afraid of wealth and success and push it away as being humble and saying, I don't need that. Of course, there'll be, you know, everyone's at their own level, and some people, you know, might have more of a smaller operation, but if you start to grow and it's gaining traction, there's a reason for that. People are hungry for the work that you're doing, for the things that I'm saying and that my guests say on the show, because people are thinking bigger about the concepts of themselves and about life and what's really going on here.
Yeah, truly. I really think that you're bringing up some really important points, that it's so important to integrate the feminine into society and culture, because the dominator culture, men will never, and I never male bash. I just want to be very clear about that. And sometimes with the masculine feminine conversation, it is conflated with the sex of male female, and sometimes it's not. So it's a evolving conversation that includes both. But I really want to say it's important not to male bash, but I will say I don't know very many men who are actively seeking to dismantle the patriarchy within themselves, who are trying to find those programs, who can see it within themselves. It is women who is going to change this. We are going to be the hinge to changing this. And we can look back through her story and see in the Elizabethan era and in the troubadour era in France, these were these two times where women got out of domestication. And when that happened, we had sexual freedom and liberation. We had social blooming and blossoming of the humanities and the arts, the things that actually feed the soul and spirit and expand technology and expand evolution, human evolution. We evolved and grew. Men started coming along for the ride. And that's what happened when women go out and stake their claim for their own liberation, then men will eventually come over to that side, because men are hurt by patriarchy, just like women, but in a different way. But they have internalized it in such a way that, you know, we've internalized it too, but it's in very different ways. And I don't see men actively understanding. And I do see some, but it's a small percentage so far. And
yeah, absolutely. And I love that, you know, you're kind of using these motions of going from here to over there, which I appreciate, because I speak often that years ago, when I first kind of got my first like huge wave of, I feel like it was ancestral inspiration after I took a trip to the UK, which is where my heritage is. And I just felt like I got all these messages coming in about women. You need to bring women together. You need to have women be heard and share their ideas and their concepts. And I was like, where is this coming from? But I had this vision that, because I started thinking, well, it's true that every single sector and system in our society was built by men, by masculine principles, and they're not working. They're just not working. They work well enough in that they function dysfunctionally. You know, they're not working for enough people. They're not keeping us in a place of prosperity. They're keeping us prisoners to this cycle of, you know, barely getting by for most of us, whether it's education or healthcare or finances, or, you know, the justice system, all of these things. So I started thinking, well, what's the answer? Because there is a lot of talk of like burning things down, right? Like get rid of it. But I was intuitively, I didn't connect with that idea. And I thought, it's not about that. It's about, I had this vision of a concert where like one really popular band is playing and everybody is at the main stage, but then another band starts playing at another stage and one person goes, and then another person goes, and then 10 people go. And all of a sudden, that band didn't have to do anything but play their music and people gravitated. And that's the vision I have, that the divine feminine is coming in to create a new offering, a new way. And we're not going to destroy what is, we're just going to create the new that people are going to say, that sounds nice. That feels better. I feel like I'm seen here. I feel like I matter here. Because the problem with our current system is majority of us feel that we don't matter. We've become so, despondent to things. Politics, we're like, I don't even know. Just, I don't care. Elect somebody, whatever. It's not going to make a difference. But can you imagine if we all felt like we mattered in a system? And to me, that's the divine feminine, where it's every single soul knows their worth and true value.
I think you hit on a few threads that just are like, I want to talk about. And I got chills when you were talking about your ancestral history, because in the UK, that's old Europe. That's the goddess culture area, Crete, old Europe. I'm like, I want to talk to you later and find out all about your experiences. I mean, that is amazing that you had the downloads there, and then connection to your history. That's really special and beautiful. I can't wait to get over there and go see some of the old sites and stuff.
It's
haven't had
powerful. Definitely get down to Glastonbury. That's it, right? Yeah. Glastonbury. It's considered the heart chakra of the world. And I went down to Bath, which is not in Glastonbury, but close. And it was close enough because it really felt like it just opened my heart. It was crazy.
Wow.
Another thing I have to point out, Jude, is I see right behind you, you have a sign that says, I can't believe the synchronicity, unwavering belief in yourself. That's what it says? And then you have a picture of the ocean and a lighthouse. So just last week, or this Monday, I released a solo episode on my podcast. I was called to go to the coast a few weekends ago, to go to the ocean. I love the ocean. I'm from California. And now I'm living in Central Oregon, so I miss it. And I felt the call and I said, I got to go see her. And I sat on a rock and I'm not kidding, Jude, I got almost that exact message from the ocean. It said, give all of yourself, be your full, powerful self. Don't hold anything back. And so clearly that message is going around. And I love that you have that picture of the ocean and the lighthouse, but that's what I feel, especially women need to be able to find that key to unlock that knowing that you can unapologetically, unwaveringly let yourself come through and be seen now. It's safe now. It wasn't for a really long time for women. We were killed.
And it's not in every country. Yeah.
And it's not in other countries.
But it's in the Western countries. Exactly. Yes. And here's the thing is that women have ancient past life fears that they haven't gotten the information yet, or haven't heard people talking about it, or haven't come across the book or the person or whatever yet, to understand that a lot of the fears they're feeling that are so visceral in their bodies are actually past life fears. And I do the work I do with women in one-on-one coaching and in my group coaching program, it helps women finally connect to this isn't even in this life. This fear is ancient. And I have real techniques that actually help us to deal with it so that we're not limited and blocked any longer. And I do deeper past life healing and one-on-one coaching. But you talked about how, that I love your metaphor of seeing the concert where people are just going over to the other stage, because this is what I talk about. We've already infiltrated the patriarchy. We don't need to fight it. We don't need to burn it down. We've infiltrated it simply by being born at this time and awakening. And women are awakening all over the world. It's rolling out. Uranus went into Taurus, the divine feminine, in 2018. Will be there until 2026. And Uranus is individuation. It is breaking free from the past. It is awakening. It is that planet of the new, but also Uranus holds all the past life memory, and it holds all of the future life. It holds and contains, it's the conscious intelligence, it's the higher intelligence of all, the quantum field. And it contains all that information that we can't consciously have in our mind or hold in our mind. It'd probably make us mad, right? But and so yeah, we don't need to burn it down. We're creating the new world. It is happening everywhere. All people have to do is poke their head out to YouTube, to social media, and to look out there, get outside of the box, stop coloring in between the lines, and look out there in the world, because it's happening everywhere. And I can't remember what podcast or something I heard it on, but there's this group in Israel, and it's Israel. And they're taking people, insurance brokers, and they're taking billionaires, I think, millionaires or billionaires, and they're taking them and they're rebuilding and restructuring their society for the people, and taking it to where they don't have to rely on all of the old old systems in that area, and it's probably going to become a model. And I can't remember what it's called, but in the UK they had the Public Health Alliance. I can't quite remember the name exactly, so it's really helpful to people. But and they also have one for agriculture and one for health. But what they're doing is small grassroots things where they're coming in and allowing, getting insurance out of there, getting all the middleman out of there, and just allowing the people to have affordable healthcare that actually is healing and doesn't disclude the types of treatments that are actually useful. People need energetic healing, and most people aren't privy to that world, but there's a lot of blocks and limitations and issues that we have on an energetic, psychic, and the astral plane level. And that's a part of the healing that we need to do as humanity. And most people don't realize that. They feel it, but we don't have the concepts and the words. And so it's like we need to really attack things on all levels: our mind, our emotions, the subconscious beliefs, past life stuff. So absolutely, I think, like you said, we are changing the world. It is happening. There's been a bloom of healing techniques all over social media. People are finally understanding that PTSD is not military. No, people have PTSD from being alive in the patriarchy, for growing up in a basically woman-hating world, from having a car accident, from never dealing with things because we haven't been in a society that deals with emotions. And so, and people are realizing that sexual abuse, narcissistic abuse, a lot of things creates PTSD. Having a family member be sick for 2 years that you're taking care of while you can't afford, anything, and you don't really have money coming in, while you're taking care of kids that have health issues, while you got out of a narcissistic abusive relationship of 12 years and going through him trying to take your kids and all that. My God, of course you would have PTSD. And now you might be trying to heal and come off of it. and then it's like, well, how the heck do I heal this? But it's blooming out there. Everyone's coming out with the healing techniques, the somatic work, connecting to our body, understanding that, no, we're in the time of the great healing. We're going to heal all the past life stuff. And I can go into some of the astrology on that if you want.
Yes, please. Yeah, I was going to ask, would we be open to dropping in maybe to the current astrology, but yeah, the astrology that is almost prophesying and speaking to this. It's saying now is the time. Right. And I want to share one thing I've never shared before, but Jude, when I must have been in high school, and have you ever had like one of those weird, like I was so tired, I was probably up studying, and I had one of those weird sort of lucid dreams or something. And I will never forget it. I wasn't very spiritual back then, but in my dream, there's giant wheel showed up in the sky above me, this giant, like different wheels all turning at the same time. And I heard this message so loud that said, this is the time for the ultimate change, or something like that. Like the great wheel is turning. And it was so profound and powerful. And I woke up and I was like, what was that? Like, what did I just see? And it just made me think of the astrology. It was like the skies were speaking to me, the planets, everything was saying, like, you need to understand that this is bigger than you can imagine, and you're a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is what's happening, that we're all trying to help each other walk this path, because we're all learning as we go, this whole world where we all have the psychic gifts, intuition, energy reading abilities, but it's like we're waking up to them. And then it's like, well, how do I deal with it? How do I deal with all the information? How do I own it that I am a seer, that I am a visionary? And women were always the seers and the propheticizers, the diviners, the sages, and they were revered and honored. We had 100,000 years of egalitarian society in the goddess culture times, where women were honored and revered, not over men, but just honored for their gifts and talents and abilities and what that brought humanity. And that's where all of our modern technology comes: paved roads, architecture, indoor plumbing. We've actually been in a regression for the last 5,000 years. And a lot of technology has been purposely like hidden from us too. But
yeah, there's a ton of stuff that we're only given, as they want to dole it out to us, very minimal. There's so much more than we realize.
Yeah, Stephen's doing a good body of work on that. He has a new movie out. Really, it'll space your face, but I really recommend everybody watch that movie, because it'll really help you waken up more and understand the things. And don't be afraid. That's one of my big messages. As you're waking up and you're finding out more of the truths, don't be afraid. The fear will not help you. For me, when I find out more new information, sometimes I go through about a 2-week period of like a letdown, a depression, a deflation as I'm integrating it. Yeah. And then coming to and understanding, yeah, this doesn't matter. What matters is, like we've been saying, is create the world you want to see. That's all we need to do. There's nothing to fight. There's nothing to fear. You know, the light is meant to, the astrology works where the precession of the equinox, where we have a time of darkness, or you could call it contrast. In the future, I think it'll just be contrast, but now it's like the depravity of what human beings are capable of. But I think we're growing out of that. But then we have a time of light, and it goes in cycles, and we're at this cycle time where that's changing. And you asked about the astrology, and we talk about the nodes of the moon a lot, and the nodes of fate. But here's the thing, all the planets have nodes. They have a north node and a south node. All planets have nodes. And I'm not going to get into the weeds too much on this because because it might be hard to understand for some people, but Pluto is our soul. Pluto is showing us our evolution. Pluto shows us our growth. And so it's always important to look at Pluto and what's going on. And of course, Pluto is squaring the nodes all year long. Pluto is in Aquarius and is retrograding back into Capricorn rather, and is going to be back and forth into Aquarius, Capricorn until November of 2024, where it will go into Aquarius for the next 20 years until 2044. And this whole year, though, it'll be square the nodes. And a square is a spot of tension. It's a spot of action needed to be taken. It's a spot of growth and provocation. Like it provokes us internally, externally, maybe. And so it's affecting everyone very prevalently all year long. That's one of the big transits of the year that is occurring, the square to the nodes. And so Pluto's nodes, the south node is in Capricorn, which is telling us the patriarchy, the last 5,000 or 6,500 years of patriarchy, or we could say dominator culture, authoritarian, top down control. And my philosophy is actually what I have come to understand, I think this will be fascinating for people, is that who's actually been at the helm of that old paradigm that's breaking down all around us and that old world is the narcissists, psychopaths, and sociopaths. Sociopaths don't feel emotions. They could be murderers, but they could actually just be your CEO. They could be your boss. They could be your manager at Starbucks. They could just be your everyday people in the world, and they are. And I want people to understand this because it's a really important point. The psychopaths are malicious intent to harm. Again, they could just be your coworker at work. They could be your CEO. They could be your mailman. They could be the domineering guy that you have to deal with at the grocery store that won't give you the refund, whatever it is. And then you have narcissists, and there's a narcissistic revolution happening on the planet right now. Everyone's waking up from all the narcissistic abusers in their own personal life and in their jobs and in the world. And what we have to realize is that this is what happened, is we're realizing that, oh, those were the people that were perpetuating this dominator culture this last 6,500 years or 5,000 years. No wonder, because people keep trying to get the world to change and all of us to stop doing war, all of us to stop doing that. That's never going to work, because 10 to 20% of the population is these narcissists, psychopaths, and sociopaths. They don't want it to change. They've a vested interest in war. They're embezzling from the American people. They're doing these things on purpose. They're perpetuating it. They want it. So we have to just remember to stop trying to fight anything and stop trying to get the whole world to come along with us. They're not going to. We just build the new different world, and they won't be able to abuse anymore. They won't have anyone left to abuse, to hurt, to manipulate, to bamboozle, to dominate. So we just build a new world. And so that Capricorn South Node of Pluto is showing us that what has come before and what we're moving out of. And the North Node is Cancer, saying, hey, go retrieve the divine feminine, go retrieve the emotions, Cancer, go retrieve all the matrilineal wisdom and knowledge of the feminine and of women, both, and stop suppressing women. Bring back the reverence for women, bring back the reverence for all people and all life, because Cancer represents life, and so does Taurus. It represents just straight life. Like, we have to look at how that old paradigm was always about death. You know, the Jesus dying on the cross, not the resurrection, the life, but Jesus dying on the cross. It was always death culture. And so we have to go towards the light, and that Cancer North Node of Pluto is saying, hey, retrieve all this wisdom and magic and information and all of your her story, and bring it forward to the Aquarian age. And then in 2600, I know that's, 4 centuries from now, and everybody's like, why does that matter to my life now? Who cares? But look at it. Look at what we are doing now and what's going to happen in the future. We're creating the future right now, that in 2600, roughly 2650 or wherever, Pluto's south node is going to change into Aquarius. What that means is Aquarius is the collective, it's innovation, it's individuation. It is us individuating from the consensus status quo, from the old paradigm. It is all of us awakening Aquarius. It is the collective, the being the one, everything being for the collective rather than the top down structures. And so that is saying in 2600, astrologers will be looking at that and saying like, oh, what came before was this time when they all awakened, they all individuated. That's why we're free now. That's why we're liberated now. That's why we're in the Aquarian age. And that's going to usher in the Aquarian age, because we're in the middle of it right now between Pisces age and the Aquarian age.
Wow. That's why this is such exciting times. We're not in our lifetime, we will see great revolution and change, but I too get a feeling that it like 500-600 years is going to be a new experience on this planet. It will be, that's when we really reach heaven on earth, is sort of the message I've gotten, really like into the light, where joy becomes a commonplace experience, not this, brief ephemeral thing that we get every once in a while between the misery and bullshit and suffering. Right.
Right, exactly. That creative self-actualization, which is the Leo principle. All the 12 signs are these areas of life to master. And it's what I really teach people to re-own the astrology for their own empowerment, of realizing, do your Leo, do your Capricorn, do all your areas, but do the conscious version of it. Leo is that like where I stand on stage, where I matter, where I bring my gifts to the world. And it's that creative self-actualization.
Yeah. I love Leo. I have my moon in Leo. So I feel that, so it's like in my emotional body is like this desire to, be seen and to be appreciated for what I have to give and to do.
To have that symbiosis. People don't realize that it's not this attention getting thing. It is the symbiosis of, like, say you're a comedian on stage. Well, if nobody's laughing, you're not really much of a comedian. Not that you're bad at, like, the person's bad. It's that you have to have both. You have to have the straight man to have the funny man. You have to have it's like Lucy couldn't have done it without Ricky. He was the straight man and she was the comedian. It's like we have to have the symbiosis of bringing our gifts and people appreciating them. But what I teach is to realize that we grew up like thinking that we had to be better than everybody else because we were just taught that. It's internalized programming, the superlatives, better, best, greatest. But actually, you all have your own individual greatness. We all have our own individual greatness, and we need to bring our feminine genius forward. And of course it takes a lot of the inner work and the healing, but yeah.
And that's what we need to do now, is to heal so that we can really step forward, come through it without fear, without holding back, right? Unwaveringly. So Jude, tell us a little more about how do you help women? So let's say someone's listening and they're like, wow, that sounds great. I want to get on that train. I want to get on board. I want to help build that new stage. But they feel the way that so many of us do, which is, yeah, but what do I have to offer? I've had these messages my whole life that I'm just, nothing interesting to say. I'm not intelligent enough. I'm not, strong enough, not powerful. I don't matter. I think most humans get that message, but I think particularly women maybe more so feel like they need to earn their worth. And I mean, that is a whole other concept in general. That's a total falsehood that I believe is changing, is that we literally live on the principle that you have to spend every moment of your life trying to prove your worth, that you matter, that you are of value, which is insanity, because literally we are souls of a part of the divine universe. We don't, we're the most powerful thing there is because we're a part of the greater whole, all the power. So that's just craziness. So how do you help people who come to you and say, I would love to be a part of this, but I feel deep down so devoid of knowing my worth and value. I feel these wounds are so strong.
I mean, it's a patriarchal program, what you were saying, that's a patriarchal program. I have a podcast episode. People can go to the Light Goddess podcast on iTunes and Spotify and find my episode called Woman, You Matter. I have a couple of episodes in that little time frame there that talks about, that really is helping women understand how much they matter. But here's the answer to your question. The answer is understanding the subconscious mind versus our conscious mind. Our subconscious mind is where we have taken on all the programming from 0 to 6 years of age. It's also housing all the subconscious programming from other lifetimes, of lifetime after lifetime of being squashed, shrunk, domesticated as a woman, killed, captured as a woman, devalued, trivialized, not allowed to speak, told we don't matter, etc. So it's housing all that material. It's very, very simple. People don't realize that we have to reprogram the subconscious. The subconscious creates our reality. It creates all of our thinking in during the day in the conscious beta brain. The beta brain is our conscious everyday mind when we're talking out loud and when we're awake and really active. Then we have our theta, our alpha theta brain waves when we're kind of in flow and creative and flowing and calm and just in the groove. And then we have our theta brain waves. And in theta, that's when we're highly hypnosable. And our brain was in that state from 0 to 6 years of age. Also, the thing about theta is this is how we can reprogram our subconscious mind. And so I have a simple method that I teach that empower women to basically, we find the subconscious thought. Because the thing about subconscious thoughts is we can see the leaves blowing, but we often don't understand the wind. We can't see the wind. So that's a part of the coaching that I do with women one-on-one. Is like, I go in and I use my intuitive psychic gifts. I also, use Socratic method and different methods to find the subconscious beliefs. Like I can just pull them out for women and they're like, oh yeah, I am feeling this way, not good enough, all the things you listed. And then we just reprogram it. We don't try to reprogram it into the beta brain, the one that's awake and say affirmations all day when we're walking around. That does have a use, but it doesn't work to reprogram the mind. So I just want to be very clear about that. We reprogram the subconscious mind. And it's a technique that I created and cultivated. And I teach it in my group coaching program, and I teach it in one-on-one coaching. And women will have that skill for the rest of their life. And once you can program your own subconscious mind, like say you program one thought a week, all year, 52 new thoughts. I am valuable. People do value me. I am respected. People do respect me. I am loved. My clients are coming in. I make, $100,000 a year, or I make $100,000 a month, whatever it is. Like I make good money. I am valuable. I am worthy. I deserve money. I'm worthy of money. These are all typical beliefs that we need to program in, and we program the beliefs in. And then I have a way that I amplify and cement it, because we want to make sure those beliefs are solid to where someone that wasn't feeling good enough, all of a sudden, they just do. Like they just do. They might have, transitory feeling of insecurity come through, because we will never get rid of that. But when your subconscious mind just feels good enough, it just feels worthy and just feels valuable, you handle transitory emotions in a completely different way. You're just like, yeah, I'm stepping on the stage to go give a speech. Of course, I feel a little uncomfortable. And then you just own it and do it. It's the price to doing it. And it doesn't bother you like it does when we have subconscious reprogramming that's needed. So I have, I just like, some people don't really realize that there's these effective techniques that actually work. And I don't really know anybody that's teaching them the way I do. I think there's amazing coaches out there, but it's my particular work. I've cultivated it over 34 years. I was driven to find the answers to my own limitations and blocks and issues. And when I found the answers, then I spent, hundreds of hours and worked with people to hone and make sure, like, how does it work, or why isn't it working now? How do I fix that? And I honed and crafted and developed and cultivated the techniques so that it always works. And yeah, I mean, it's actually very simple, but people do have to, the thing about it is coaching's hardcore. People and not all coaches are the same. It's just like dentists. You have a great one, and then you have one that's like, you don't even understand me. You're not intuitive. You're like jacking my mouth all around. But then you have the dentist that changes your life, and you're like, oh my God, I will drive across state to go to you when I move because I love you so much. And there's not many out there. So I want to be clear about that piece and finding the right coach to work with. But there's amazing coaches out there, but there's some that are paltry or new or whatever. And the thing about coaching is you got to dig in. You got to be ready to actually go deal with all that material, to deal with the sexual abuse, to deal with the incest, to deal with the parents and narcissists, to deal with all of that stuff, because that's what is actually churning up. but it's
Yeah.
what most people are sweeping underneath the rug and don't want to look at. But it is the answer. When we
Yeah.
heal, we change our life, we make our dreams come true.
Yep, absolutely. Because I always equate it to, well, one is I use the word constriction. Like when we're unhealed, when we stop, we don't have belief in ourselves, we close down, we get closed off. And just the way that we see in our bodies, we never want constriction in our bodies. Constriction is what leads to heart problems and, you know, blood pressure problems and all these things, and also creates cancer when you have blockages and cells that are attacking each other, all that. You want there to be, the more that things are free and flowing, the healthier all systems are. When we are not healed, when have these wounds, there's a blockage. And it's, kind of, I always equate it to a tumor. Like our trauma becomes like this energetic tumor in our body that's just kind of like sucking up a lot of energy and keeping us from being able to fully express ourselves. So once we address that block and we're able to transmute it and shift it and clear the way, then we can start letting our ideas, our brilliance come through.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that I think everyone is waking up to the understanding that it affects all levels of our system. It affects our health. Like most health problems are because of the stress.
Yeah.
And we have to realize that the planet, the universe, it's provoking this shift. It's provoking this purge. We've been in a Scorpio South Node. Scorpio is the underworld. It is all that shit. It is the cesspool in our consciousness and our deep psyche soul, and it's coming up for a reason. It's coming up to heal.
Yeah.
And yes, I also think that it's true too that we have to go at our own pace. I'm somebody that I'm just like at a breakneck pace. Like I don't want this in there anymore. I will let myself fall apart for 2 weeks to go dig into it so heavy and hardcore, because I know I'll always fall together again. But I'm a pretty hardcore person. Some people, take it as you can, but I really encourage people to dig in. Don't avoid it, because on the other side is all your dreams. And here's the thing too, a lot of people say you have to heal to coach. That is true for some people, but other people, it's a simultaneous journey. So it's very individual. Some people don't have any business coaching until they are like in a healed place or have dealt with, a damaged ego and stuff. And other people can do both. So it's very individual, this whole healing business.
Yeah.
Thing.
Absolutely. A few points I'd like to comment on is, one is that just what you said. I speak often that I come at my, through the podcast, through the work I do, I speak as someone who I feel like I'm in the trenches right with everybody. I've made a lot of progress, but I'm still trying to figure out how do I have these wounds that feel like they will never heal. And it's so painful and just feels like it's in my bones, but I keep working at it. And I realize that it's just slow and steady, that it's every single brush stroke changes it a little bit, but it can feel like it's taking forever. It's not going anywhere. So I say this to encourage people that we're in this together. We have to acknowledge every step we take, even if it feels like it's trudging along. So yeah, I think that some of us can be healers at the same time that we're healing, because those can be really powerful healers, because you're able to say, I hear you and I see you. I feel it. I know what you're going through. I'm there too. Let's help each other along, right? They also say that often you teach what you need to learn. So when I'm a therapist, and oftentimes I'll find myself speaking to a client and I kind of realize like, wow, that's some pretty good advice right there. That's some smart stuff. And I needed to hear it too. So I think that there's a place for everyone. And I think that there are people who have reached a point where they have really cleared out a lot and they become really direct channels that can, without their own affectedness, can speak to others and help them heal and help them see things quicker. So I think it takes, we're all just, wherever we're at, just do what you can, right? Do what you feel called to do what you feel inspired to do, because nobody is in timeout. No one's like, okay, well, you're too far behind. You can't be a part of this. Everybody has their place, right?
And I think that what's so amazing about women's circles, every time I'm in a women's circle, and I hold women's circles as well, what I always find is someone shows me where I've already grown and healed, or where I've tackled that issue. And it's so amazing to see it, because I didn't really have the mirror to show me an area that I grew in. I didn't even realize it. And then the other thing I always see is like someone else is is struggling or has healed what I am healing now or working through. And it helps me feel not alone. And it helps me feel like, no, yeah, you'll get there. And so it's like, we're never, and it always grounds me in realizing that I'm in exactly the right place. Like, I'm not behind, I'm not late, I'm not missing out, because there's so much programming in the collective about the fear of missing out, that you're behind, this urgency, this destination focus. It's not, it's a spiral. It's feminine. The universe is a living being, and it's spiraling, it's cyclical. There's always a cyclical renewal, like the seasons, like the moon, all of it, with the precession of the equinox. Something you bring up too that I think is important is for people to also know that, at their own pace, like, give yourself and others the dignity of your own timeline. Because I coach a lot of coaches, I coach a lot of people who are doing the healing work in the world. And it's like, give people the dignity of their own timeline. That's the skill, as being a therapist, that's a skill set we must cultivate, of being able to understand when to poke and when not, and when to allow. And really, it's a skill that we develop over time. And sometimes you're talking about stuff in the very first session that they won't be ready for until a year and a half later. And it's just the way, it's just their own evolution, or needing to come at it with Socratic method versus teaching method, or whatever is needed. But I do want to say for people to understand that there's a lot of things that aren't actually healing in the world that are pushed on us as if they're healing techniques. And I keep cultivating new ways to try to explain this, because I searched my whole life. I'm like, I went to therapy for 10 years, and there's amazing therapists. I just want to be clear, just like coaches and dentists, like there's the ones that are, growing and amazing. And then, there's whatever, but it's like, nobody was trying to help me heal. And then I had a messed up therapist who wanted me to be disempowered. He actually kept me disempowered. Every time I would get into a place of empowerment, it's like he would pull me back down, and I had to take the rose-colored glasses off and boot him out and be like, what am I doing here? And I just ended up moving forward. But that's, there's techniques that actually work. Like the belief reprogramming technique I teach, 3 days to 2 weeks, and that belief should be feeling solid in there. And then we solidify it. But it should be feeling solid within 3 days to 2 weeks. It should not take a long time. If it's taking too long, then there's something that we have to untangle or deal with, I come at it from a different angle. But I was moving my coaching, one-on-one coaching price up, and I was moving it up several $1,000s. And I had, I always teach, we have to believe into our new revenue goal. We have to believe into our new identity of ourself, the new version of ourself. And we talk a lot about our future self in coaching, and living into that new future version of ourself. And so I needed to do belief work to be able to just spit that out and believe in it, and know my work deserved that price point. I did 3 days of my reprogramming method, and it was just rolling off my tongue. It was within my whole being. I just believed it. And that's the power of this method and technique. So yeah, I think it's a both on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing that. And it's inspiring for people to know that it is possible. And I love that you also are speaking to the fact that everyone's healing happens in its own time. I love the analogy of gestation. It's just like you can't rush a birth. You can't do it, right? When something, let's say you have an idea and you're so eager for it to come to fruition, it's gestating for a while. It's, coming together. The same as healing. It's a process. It's like if you have a wound, you can't hurry the healing process, right? You can tend to it, which is faster than if it gets infected. But you know what I mean? It's you watch the beautiful process. I'm always amazed every time I watch a wound heal. I'm like, God, my body just knows what to do every single step. And what I realize is that our emotional body also knows how to heal itself. And it knows that even though you want it to be done tomorrow, if you really want to get all the layers healthily healed, you got to take the time that it takes. So patience is so key.
Yeah. And something else I found too, which, I think this is individual as well, but something I'm part of my efforts right now are to really help to deconstruct some of the misunderstandings with healing, you know, and I think we're doing that really well now, because I think there's a lot of misunderstandings that make people not do anything, or misunderstand when it's a gestation period and when to dig in, or when, like, you know, I've done some deep healing recently where I'm just doing mad intense work constantly, where I have to take a week off every once in a while, where I just, nope, I need a week off. I'm not going to think about it, look at it, but I get back on the horse the next week. And that's also just who I am and my personality. But some people might have to push themselves to get back on the horse that next week. And so I think it's good to understand that a lot of things people call healing, like going to circles and doing transformational retreats and stuff like that, I think we need another term for it. I think it's transformation. I think it shifts us. I think it shakes loose things. But I think there's a difference between like really doing the bulk foundational healing that is like, then it's solid, then it's done. And of course, you're going to be provoked for the rest of your life on things and keep growing and evolving, which provokes more, you know, self-doubt or whatever. But it's just self-doubt. It's not the deep unconscious, you know, the deep subconscious self-doubt that's like basically stopping us from stepping into that next level of our greatness, when we know, I mean, you know, it's like we can see our own vision of ourselves, like we know our greatness, but most women are not, are so, it's just this fear, it's so deep.
Absolutely. And that makes me think, so you work with people on reclaiming their power, but I want to look at another component of that, which is a bigger societal fear or a limit, which is that, let's say we realize our power, but there's also this strong programming messaging that we have no autonomy in terms of changing things, that things just are how they are. There's a lot, most people don't think very big. They think, oh, this is how life is. You have, you know, X, Y, and Z, and that's all we have to work with. But I feel people like you and myself, we're thinking, well, we have so much more at our disposal to work with. So my question is, as we realize that in our potential, how can we help women to be able to step forward in these different sectors, in education and healthcare and politics and all these realms that desperately need these new ways of thinking? How can we move in there when it feels so, you know, abrasive? Like, wow, how am I going to make a difference? How am I going to make change in this realm that feels, you know, so inaccessible?
I think it's two things. I think a lot of people still don't really manage their mind. I think it's so out there, much more. But my work, I teach mind management. A lot of coaches teach mind management, where it's actually pen to paper, taking your thoughts, putting them on the page, seeing what feelings they create, what actions are driven by those feelings, and managing our mind, like looking what's in our minds, because everything you're talking about is all just thoughts. And when people let their brain indulge in these thoughts, of course, they're going to feel scared, held back, and not take action. Now, some of it is a subconscious piece. Once you reprogram that, then doing this thought work I'm talking about is just really flowing and simple, and you realize like, oh, I'm just having a thought error, or oh, I'm letting my brain think this crappy thought that I can't do it. I need to say no to the default habit brain, say no to that. And when you keep changing the brain to the new thought over and over, that no, I'm doing this. And you know, and so there's two pieces for me. I don't think the thought work with the conscious mind is very easy if we don't reprogram the subconscious, but we must do both. We must manage our mind. The program, I think basically this work, it dismantles all those programs. It does it for us. Like as we're going in to heal, you know, with the methods I teach, it does it for us. We start to just dismantle these programs naturally. They start to fall away, and we might see them and we might realize like we were affected, but we're not affected 10 layers deep. We're only affected at these superficial levels where we're like, no, I ain't doing that anymore. That's what these techniques do, is to where we're not affected in such a deep way to where it stops us and blocks us. And as far as people like in the government and then, you know, in the industrial complexes, the education industrial complex, the insurance industrial complex, the government industrial complex, you know, pharmaceutical industrial complex, as far as that is got, you know, like amazing to these people who want to be in these places. And I really hope that there are women listening that want to be in these places, that want to make change in these places, because we need to make change in these places. But also people are out there building new education systems, new healthcare systems. We're doing it. We're doing grass up different. We're probably going to have different monetary systems coming in. The astrology is really pointing to that. So, I think we're doing it all. I think it's going to be this evolution. I think this next 10 years is going to be really exciting to see how it all unfolding. And I think we just need to, get out of the boxes, stop coloring between the lines, and do that inner work, like manage our mind. Because if we let our brains indulge in thoughts, then of course we're going to, feel blocked. But
yeah, absolutely. And that's why I think it's a time of, the renegades and the rebels and, the people going rogue, just saying, like you said, I'm not going to draw on the lines anymore, because the lines, we made them up. We made them up. We made up all these rules that we have on this planet. They're not the governing rules of the universe. They're the governing rules of humanity that we've decided on, and we can change them at any time. And that, I believe, is the human revolution, when we realize we can recreate it all over again in the most brilliant, beautiful way. And that's exciting. And we're doing it. And that's what we're going to start seeing these 10 years. So I encourage anyone listening that, yes, it's going to be scary. As you said, people might be resistant to change. They might get nervous, get uncomfortable. But the more you can, surrender and recognize that it's for our ultimate highest good, for our evolution. And, it works at both a macro and micro level, because you spoke earlier about recognizing that when we have, you said Scorpio in the South node, it's a time of going into the darkness and getting out what needs to come out so that you can be free, so that you're not tied to these, deep, gunky beliefs that keep you feeling down. But it can be scary, right? I did an episode last week on the dark night of the soul, and I went through that, and it was terrible. And it's frightening. Had a lot of suicidal thoughts. I didn't want to be here. It felt like my whole, history and trauma was like pummeling me, like wave after wave. And it's hard, but if you can trust it, and if you can move through that, find help, find, a guide, find support, then you'll see that it's just something that is, the universe knows you're ready to release this, and that you're ready to level up. Right. And the same as our society.
Yeah, I think that's part of the awakening journey too, where you do have those purges where it's just purging up. I mean, when I was awakening, more of the spontaneous burst of awakening, because once we awaken spiritually, we continue that for the rest of our lives, but it's not necessarily that spontaneous where it's like consciousness melting down inside of yourself kind of awakening. But, like the ego deaths, it really felt like a real death, because our ego is our identity. And it felt like a real death. I had times where I had purges just churning up within me, where I was in the shower for 3 hours crying, and I couldn't stop crying. It just was coming through me almost. It was just all this material purging. And thankfully, I was able to go through that period of time, because a lot of people I don't think are having the guides, but you're speaking about it. I'm speaking about it. And I think all of us speaking about it are helping everyone that is going to be going through it newly to know that this is what happens. This is a part of it. It's okay. Nothing's gone wrong here, and it's okay. It's okay to be on your knees crying. And that's why I teach emotional alchemy, because most of us aren't taught, emotions. We're taught anger is not okay, or this emotion's bad, or, women are taught like, stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about, and it's like, no, our emotions are the bridge between our soul and our personality ego. Our emotions are all the messages and information. Our emotions are our wisdom, our wealth, our gold. It has messages for us. And here's the thing, you are denying parts of yourself, and you're denying your own self-intimacy if you are denying your emotions. And I really encourage people, and in my work, I teach women to start working with their emotions as like it's their inner child, or as if they would work with the child. They wouldn't tell the child to shut up and get over it, like they do themselves. They would go, oh, how are you feeling? Oh, you're feeling sad. Oh, okay, I hear you. And they would just hold space. And we just need to hold space for our emotions, name it, ask it for its messages. And then I teach real techniques that work to release emotions. So we don't ever have to be like having them stymied by them day to day. But at first too, if people haven't dealt with their repressed material, they might have stacks of emotions coming up. Or sometimes on the spiritual awakening journey, I've had hundreds of emotions flooding through me in one day. And it's just like this one and this one and this one, and it just doesn't stop. It's just flooding through. And I think when women know that that's part of our, the journey, and that's a part of it, and it's all okay.
Yeah. And that's why community is so important, and having more of us come together and share in this and be able to support one another. Because if it happens to you off the cuff and you're like, what the heck is going on with me? It can feel like you're losing your mind, can feel like you're going crazy. Also, during dark nights, I know I got super sick. You can have a lot of physical ailments and think that you're, dying. There's your health is shot. It's a whole gnarly thing, but it's ultimately such good news, because it means you're leveling up, right? You're here to fight, to be on the battlefield, to be out there as a warrior moving through these times, right? To be front runners. And, that's what we are.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that all of the shit in the shadow, all of the pain, loss, and challenge we go through, like that's our PhD for the work we're meant to do in the world. At least for, those of us light bringers, light goddesses, those of us star seeds, it's the PhD for the work that we want to do in the world. It's all, and whether it's 1-to-1 ratio and it's so obviously that you're using it, or if it's just the work that's in your repertoire of being able to hold compassion, have humility, understanding for others, empathetic intelligence, which is what we're moving. We're moving from a species of mind, ego dominance into a species of empathetic intelligence, of intuition, feeling dominance. Yeah. And here's the thing, with AI moving into the level of sentience soon, and with people utilizing AI in the way they are, not awake and conscious of the repercussions later to come, what's convenient today is control tomorrow, we have to use our intuition as our navigation system. We must navigate this world with our intuition as women. So we must learn that world inside and out. We must learn our intuition inside and out. And if you go about your life, you will notice that you're constantly getting your messages intuitively, and you're constantly having low risk situations where it doesn't really matter, to start honing your own intuition and that navigation system. Like I had this funny experience where I wanted to get a haircut, and I'm paying off my student loan debt. I paid off $70,000 worth of student loan debt. And so I'm almost there. And, I'm really, very specific at this moment of investing in my business and paying off my student loan debt. And I wanted to get a haircut, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll do it in 2 weeks. This is when I'll do it. And I really wanted it now though. And I found $71 in the park. That was Spirit giving me my haircut. Well,
get your haircut, girl.
But here's the thing about the intuition, when I'm telling the story, is that I was like, oh, but I'll go get the cheap haircut. I've gotten expensive haircuts that weren't that great anyways. Like, I'll get the cheap one, and then I'll buy a plant I want to, and I'll be smart with it. That was all mind bullshit. The money was for the haircut. It just came in. My intuition said, it's for the haircut. Go get the expensive haircut. Or, it's not expensive, but go get the, higher dollar haircut. Yeah. And I did it. And I got a shitty haircut that I didn't like. And, and it's like, so it's a low risk situation to hone my intuition, to be like, my intuition told me everything. My mind swung in a second and was arguing and fighting and trying to be rational and logical and reasonable. And it's like, no, we have to use our intuition to navigate our world, and realize that it is not logical. It doesn't make sense. It won't. And that's not the world we're going to be living anymore. We're retrieving our feminine abilities as women to move forward in this way.
Yes, which is such a gorgeous, exciting thing. So let's get out there and go retrieve, go grab it, and move forward with it unwaveringly. Make it happen. Don't hold back. Don't hold anything back.
Step into the next level of visibility as a woman. Yeah. Speak your voice, own your no and yes.
Yeah. Yes. I can't wait. Well, Jude, I'm so glad that we are connected, and now we can collaborate and work together. Thank you so much for being on the show and sharing about your fabulous work and perspectives and everything. If people would like to work with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, when people can get download a free Women Rising Astrology mini course on my website, thegoddessastrologer.com. And social media has done a weird thing where they keep saying astrologist on social media. Astrologers go by astrologer. And I just want to make that note, because my website is astrologer. I don't want people trying to look for the other one. But social media, put that on there, and it's just been this weird thing. So I just want people to know that. to know that differentiation. And then, I have a pick your price astrology reading option right now, which people won't be able to get, a low price astrology reading from me in the future. And I'm doing an astrological research. So this is an amazing opportunity to come and pick your own price. If you feel like you can't afford it, then go to my website, thegoddessastrologer.com, and you can download that free mini course and pick your price on an astrology reading.
Awesome. That sounds fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Jude. I hope you have a beautiful day. Thank you again. We'll have you back on again soon.
I really appreciate being here, Whitney. Take good care.
Bye.